Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Kaitlin Brown Show. I'm Kaitlin Brown, and I will be your host tonight and every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. First and foremost, we hit 1,000 subscribers in a matter of just a few days, and I can only thank you guys enough for being a part of this journey here with me. Thank you so much for being here. I believe by this time next year, this will be the biggest show in America. So enjoy the ride. And as you jump on, let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. I'd love to see where everyone is watching from tonight. And while you're there, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Every Thursday night, we'll be discussing leadership, America's top current events, and weeding out all the exaggerated, dramatic parts of politics. Instead, we will focus on the principles that help build a stronger and more united nation. Our focus is simple: learning from the past, growing in the present, and helping America move forward. Now, with that being said, what you will not find on this show is me tearing down people, leaders, or organizations for the sake of clicks, views, or controversy. That doesn't mean we won't discuss difficult topics or stand firmly on the truth, because we absolutely will, but I believe truth can be spoken with both conviction and respect. This show is about solutions, leadership, and constructive conversations, not outrage, division, and endless negativity. I want you to leave this show with the truth and feeling encouraged and not drained. I believe our society has become far too comfortable with slander, personal attacks, and outrage-driven content. My hope is that this show can be a small step in the right direction. We may not always agree, and that's okay, but we can choose to listen, seek understanding, and treat one another with dignity and respect. Because at the end of the day, if we're going to be building a better future, it starts with how we lead and how we communicate. So thank you again for being here. Now let's jump into tonight's show. So first on the list, I just wanted to throw this out there in case you didn't already know. America is turning 250 years old on July 4th in just 9 days. And there's going to be a lot of exciting things happening, a lot of celebration, a lot of family barbecues. We already know. But it is that one day that hopefully, all of us Americans can just come together and put our differences aside and celebrate our nation and the sacrifices it has endured over the last 250 years. Speaking of that, my new book, 250 Years, One Nation Under God, is out now. Make sure to grab your copy on Amazon or by clicking the link in my bio. This book has been made for the moment. It goes over the main pivotal points in American history over the last 250 years and contains a strong message for how we must continue to move forward. So many people have sacrificed their lives for this nation. And not only do we owe it to them to be better, but we also owe it to our generations to come. I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback on this book and how it resonated with you. Now, in other news, did you guys see that Angel Studios directed a movie called Young Washington that tells the story of George Washington and the building of the foundation of our nation? It comes out on July 3rd, so make sure to grab your tickets. I'm very excited to see that movie. And by the way, this is not an ad at all. I'm just telling you guys, it looks incredible and you should go out and see it. Now, let's get into more serious matters. Let's talk about this peace deal. Is it signed? Is it not signed? Are gas prices finally going to come down or what? I think a lot of Americans are asking the same questions because it seems like every day we're hearing something different. Here's what we do know so far. The United States and Iran have signed an interim framework agreement aimed at ending the conflict and creating a path towards a broader peace deal. However, many of the details still have to be negotiated and implemented, which is why there continues to be uncertainty about what comes next. One thing that has become increasingly clear is that President Trump appears focused on the de-escalation and reaching a long-term agreement, while Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has continued to emphasize Israel's security concerns and the need to prevent Iran from rebuilding its military capabilities. Listen, I understand the concern, but let's get it on. We want this over. We want to continue to move on with our lives. We want to continue to have cheaper gas prices. Let's turn the page. Let's move the chapter. Let's just move on. Okay. I feel like this has been a constant back and forth, and I'm definitely seeing the misalignment between the United States and Israel picking back up a little bit. But it seems like Donald Trump and Bibi are still kind of on two different pages. Trump wants it to be over and Bibi looks like he's just getting started. And that doesn't necessarily mean the two leaders are enemies. That's not at all what I'm saying, or at complete odds. But there does appear to be growing tension over how this situation should move forward. I was recently watching an interview with JD Vance as well, and he looked a little bit flustered, some tension. And he was explaining how, they really want to move forward with this peace agreement and they just want to move forward. And they want to turn the chapter and let's do it. Let's get it done. We're ready. We're waiting. Okay. We're more than ready. We're at this point, we're just waiting. Right. And in fact, several major news outlets have reported that the relationship between Trump and Netanyahu is being tested as the United States pushes for a negotiated settlement. while Israel remains skeptical of whether Iran can be trusted to uphold its commitments. Now, let's talk about what most Americans care about when they pull up to the gas pump. The good news is that oil prices have fallen since the news of the agreement broke, largely because markets believe the risk of a wider regional war has decreased and shipping through the Strait of Hormuz may stabilize. The bad news is that lower oil prices do not immediately translate into lower gas prices. Analysts say it could take weeks or even months before consumers see meaningful release at the pump because supply chains, refining capacities, transportation costs, and summer demand all play a role. So where does that leave us? In a nutshell, the peace framework has been signed, but the long-term peace agreement is still a work in progress. Oil prices have responded positively, but Americans should not expect overnight relief at the gas station. The next few weeks will likely tell us whether this becomes a lasting peace agreement or just another temporary pause in a very complicated region. Here's a direct correspondence email from the White House. This is part of their weekly news article. It states, President Trump brokers historic Iran peace deal. In the most consequential foreign policy achievement of a generation, President Trump brokered a historical peace agreement with Iran, ending nearly 5 decades of hostility, terrorism, and nuclear brinksmanship. Where past administration handed Iran billions in cash and looked the other way, President Trump applied maximum pressure and delivered maximum results. Meanwhile, the first ever UFC event at the White House became an instant classic. President Trump also represented America at the G7 summit, showcasing restored U.S. leadership on the world stage. $4.9 billion in new American investments were announced, from aerospace to lunar resources. As the economy continues to roar, the nation closes the week celebrating Father's Day. So first of all, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And it looks like it was a very busy and productive week for the White House. Moving on, one of the biggest political stories in America right now is the debate surrounding the Save America Act. Now, depending on where you get your news from, you've probably heard very different things about this legislation. Supporters say it's a common sense election integrity bill designed to ensure that only American citizens vote in federal elections. The legislation would require proof of citizenship when registering to vote in federal elections and would establish additional voter identification requirements. The bill has already passed the House and is now facing major hurdles in the Senate. We should just approve the bill. I mean, it's common sense. Come on. President Trump has made the Save America Act one of his top legislative priorities. In fact, this week he delayed action on other legislations while pressuring Congress to focus on the bill, arguing that election integrity is one of the most important issues facing this country. Supporters of the Save America Act argue that American elections should be decided by American citizens, and that requiring proof of citizenship is no different than the identification requirements Americans encounter in many different other areas of their life. They believe stronger safeguards would help restore public confidence in the election process. Critics, however, argue that citizenship is already required to vote and that instances of non-citizen voting are relatively rare. So if it's rare, then why does it matter? Okay. They also express concern that additional documentation requirements should create obstacles for eligible voters who may not have immediate access to documents such as passports or birth certificates. Well, if you're a citizen, you should have that, right? And that's where the debate really begins, because at its core, this conversation is about two principles that most Americans actually agree on. First, only American citizens should vote in American elections. Second, every eligible American citizen should have the ability to vote. The challenge is determining how to accomplish both goals effectively. As I look at this issue, I think there's a larger leadership lesson. Trust is the foundation of every institution. A business cannot succeed without trust. A marriage cannot succeed without trust. A community cannot succeed without trust. And a democracy cannot succeed without trust. Listen, whether you support the Save America Act or oppose it, I think most Americans would agree that confidence in our election system matters. When people trust the outcome of elections, they accept results, move forward, and continue participating in the democratic process. When trust breaks down, division grows. That's why I believe this conversation is much bigger than any one bill. It's about how we strengthen confidence in our institutions while protecting the rights and freedoms that make America exceptional. And regardless of where this legislation ultimately ends up, I think every American should be paying attention because elections are not just about politics, they're about the future direction of our country. As we approach America's 250th birthday, perhaps one of the most important questions we can ask is this: how do we continue building a system that is both secure and accessible? How do we protect the integrity of our elections while ensuring every eligible citizen has a voice? Those are serious questions and they deserve serious conversations. Not outrage, not division, not talking points, real conversations about how we strengthen the institution that have sustained this nation for nearly 2.5 centuries. Now, in some more lighter updates making headlines this week, there are a few personal announcements and political shifts worth noting. One, Caroline Leavitt is officially back from maternity leave. It seems like she's going to ease her way back into work as she should. She's a strong mom of 2 and stepping back into a very visible role while balancing family life and public service. Speaking of family news, Candace Owens recently announced that she is also expecting and is pregnant. Now, I know some of Candace's views are a little controversial and she can go down the rabbit hole a little bit at times, but I still have a lot of respect for her as a mom and as a woman in this space. And then we have Tucker Carlson, who announced that he is leaving the Republican Party. I don't think many people were completely surprised by this, as he has been showing signs of misalignment for a while and seems to be taking a more independent route. It's interesting because I think back to when Trump was running for president and Tucker was such a strong supporter of him. I don't know if you guys remember the day there was a Republican primary debate that Trump was supposed to attend, and instead he and Tucker did a live interview on X. Yeah, I remember watching that, and it's just crazy to see how times have changed, but that's politics for you. Now, before we wrap up tonight, I want to end with something that feels both historic and symbolic. This week, a new Air Force One aircraft was introduced as part of the next generation of presidential travel. At the same time, one of the most iconic Air Force One planes in history completed its final official mission after decades of service. That aircraft served presidents for more than 30 years. It flew through the end of the Cold War, the Gulf War era, 9/11, and countless moments that shaped modern American history. And for many Americans, it wasn't just a plane, it was a symbol, a literal flying White House, a representation of continuity, leadership, and peaceful transfer of power. Now, that aircraft is being retired and it's expected to become a museum piece so future generations can see a part of that history up close and personal. And I think there's a leadership lesson in that. Every generation eventually passes the torch. Every era of leadership eventually gives way to the next. The question is not whether change comes, it always does. The question is whether we leave things better than how we found them. And as we move towards America's 250th birthday, that's something worth reflecting on. The mission continues, and now it's in our hands. And those are my updates for this week. And thank you guys again for tuning in. And make sure to like and subscribe. See you all next week, same day and time, Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, as we will be discussing some more updates as well as my personal projections for the next presidential election, who we think is running on either side and what they stand for. Again, we will not be attacking people's character. We will be looking at their policies and what they align with and drown out all the noise in the process. So that's it for tonight, guys. I look forward to seeing you all next week. Kaitlin Brown here, and I'm signing off.